DP here. You know you want to know who's QB2.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey gang, DP here, Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Before we get too deep into what we're going to talk about today, I'll have Mark on while I'll let you know about LinkedIn.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by LinkedIn. Now, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's super easy to do. If you are watching this on a computer or on your phone, your computer skills are good enough to create a LinkedIn Jobs posting. You add your job and then the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. And as you know, making that right hire makes all the difference. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Now, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. DP, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. Much appreciated. It is camp time. It's football season. You start to get all the warm and fuzzies. Our red burns brighter, and there's a reason. And as we head into the camp and the battles and the competitions take place, and legitimate competitions are taking place at camp for Nebraska, what Matt Rhule and Marcus Satterfield and Tony White have to figure out is what's going to be the brand, what's going to be the personality of these teams, and in doing so, identifying the players that are going to help them achieve and accomplish and execute said action. It's big to know what's expected of the quarterback position for Nebraska through Marcus Satterfield's system. In year one, it may not look the same as it will in year 2 or year 3. New coaching staffs walk in and have to identify the talent that exists, and then can they develop the level and caliber and the skill set in individual groups to make offenses and defenses work in the Big Ten Conference. They will get some information this season. It happens. But Marcus Satterfield, in recent edition, being at the University of South Carolina, has some idea about what he wants his offenses to look like. Now, that some Nebraska fans they'll cringe a little bit, because the last told was a new coach coming in that the Big Ten Conference is going to have to adjust to their offense. And the last couple of offensive coordinators and play callers made that statement, and they failed at the ability to execute it. But Marcus Satterfield has a simple arrogance, which comes from knowledge of what he is able to coach and what he's able to teach. And so his belief is that, well, quite frankly, we'll be able to do the things I want to do. We may not be able to do them all this year with this roster, but at least we can target it and have some idea of what that is. We start at the quarterback position because in the Satterfield universe, quarterback play is paramount to success. And it's having someone that you trust in making decisions on the fly, some of them being athletic decisions, some of them being cerebral decisions, intelligence decisions, and identifying what he's trying to do with his play calls, his sets, his personnel on the field, and then trying to maneuver folks into different spaces so that there's success. Paramount to that, for Nebraska offensively, the quarterback position will require some physical presence. You don't have a full and entire trust of an offensive line in the Big Ten Conference because there hasn't been recent success to bank that on. You have to judge based on recent success. And while you have a veteran group at the offensive line, the quarterback position is going to require some physicality that puts some fans at ill ease, because Jeff Sims has come in, rocket arm, physical presence, great identifier of down and distance situation and circumstance. Obviously the player that will lead the team, but behind him is where the question rises, because recent Nebraska football history has said that quarterbacks don't make it through the entire season. There's some wear and tear. Look, it's physical play in the Big Ten Conference. And listen, Nebraska knocked out a couple of quarterbacks itself last year. So we understand that, okay, no matter who it is, Michigan required 2 elite quarterbacks to be in play. Ohio State was fortunate enough for Justin Field to battle his way through. Most teams in the Big Ten Conference had to use second or third and sometimes fourth quarterbacks to get through their season. So it is not alien to think that Nebraska is going to need a rock-solid foundational backup for Jeff Sims. We don't hope that. We don't wish that. It is my greatest wish that Jeff Sims plays every snap required of him to play for Nebraska this season, aside from him running it up on folks. And, Nebraska fans will smile and giggle at the idea that Jeff Sims will play so well that the backups will get to play simply because he played so well rather than him getting beat up. But we don't know which one it'll be, and we don't know how it'll happen. So the conversation becomes this: who will be Jeff Sims' number 2? And listen, some folks will get upset that, well, why are we competing? They're still competing. They're still competing for number 1. But based on some conversations had, and then the selection and choice of sending Jeff Sims to the Big Ten Media Days, and him being put out in certain social circles as the team's leader, it is my feeling, not an assumption, my feeling is that Jeff Sims is the guy, and unless somebody steps up and has the camp of all camps, which could still happen. But then who's going to challenge him, and who is going to support him, who's going to back him up? And the first name that comes up, and here's how I process this, and I'm going to speak as a coach and as a player, that what you want from the backup is the ability to continue to do the things that need to be done to win ball games in the Big Ten Conference. Who's going to come in and be able to continue doing the things that will be required? And we don't know what point of the season you need the backup. You don't know what game situation it's going to be. You don't know weather circumstances. You don't know any of it. What you need to do is to prepare to make sure that the consistent things that Nebraska does. And here's the thinking, that the thing that Marcus Satterfield and Matt Rhule decide that Nebraska needs to do best most often can be done with the backup. So whatever their best plays, if you took the top 10 plays, those are the ones that the backup quarterback gets the most reps during the season and at camp and otherwise. The top 10 plays, the plays that you're going to run that week, the plays you're going to run that season, whatever the 10 plays that you feel like you can execute at the highest level, no matter who's in the game. Those are the core plays for Nebraska football. So Satterfield, in his mind, has some idea about what those 10 plays. He's probably got a group of 30, and throughout the course of camp, you will narrow that down to say, well, listen, we run this from this formation. We can run this set, and we'll get the highest level of success. And how efficiency percentages that show up at practice will tell you a lot. So then, from the backup, what you need and what you hope for is some idea about who runs those things at the highest percentage. we'll talk about that. We'll start, in fact, with drum roll. Come back to it. Come back. DP here. I'm laughing at my tease from the previous segment because I was having fun with it. I really wanted to just jump into it. But thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Quarterback position, backups. Competition sets it up, and there is a competition at camp. I want to say that. Jeff Sims walks in as QB1 currently, and just there's several things that lead to that. But it's my guess and my feeling that Chubba Purdy, because of his experience in the Big Ten, could walk into any stadium in the Big Ten and at least be more familiar about situation, circumstance, and otherwise, just a little bit more than Heinrich Haarberg. Not saying that Haarberg isn't talented. He may be the more talented of the two, as a matter of fact. Size, speed, rocket arm, ability to throw the big ball. Then the question becomes who can manage the team in those chaotic situations best. And my gut feeling, since he's already seen, half of the Big Ten Conference in live action, that no matter whether it's home or away, and being home or away makes a difference, your ability to manage the huddle in those situations in the Big Ten Conference, I would just think that Chubba Purdy would get you in and out of situations and then have the ability to make the plays athletically, especially with his feet. Because when a new quarterback comes in is when folks start to blitz and they start sending people in the gaps, and you need somebody who can put their foot in the ground and not lose their calm. Not saying that Haarberg doesn't have that or that he won't have that after 4 weeks of camp. But if I had to press the button today, I would say that Chubba Purdy would be quarterback 2 and Haarberg 3. That could change, and that's why you go through camp, and that's why we adapt, and we give you this information each and every day because it changes, it's fluid. Somebody steps up, and you don't know. The same can be said for the tight end position, because if I asked you as a Husker fan to ponder and say, okay, identify what you think the top tight end, the top 2 tight ends, the top 3 tight ends, who they would be, who comes to mind. You would have your list. But if I then said, of the tight end position, who do you trust the most? Who do you have knowledge of the most? And there's the difference. There is a difference because coaches make decisions often based on trust. Do I trust you? Everybody has skill. That's how you got here. That's why you're here. That's why you're in the system. But who do you trust? That if your job is on the line or a play needs to be made, who do you trust to make that play? We talked about it with the quarterback position because, quite frankly, we've seen Chubba Purdy in those situations. We have not seen Heinrich Haarberg in those situations. At the tight end position, it appears to me that the player that coaches would trust more is Nate Borkature, because they saw him in an expanded role with expanded responsibility and being able to block and catch in tough situations in the Big Ten Conference. And you're not saying that he is the most talented, most gifted, biggest, fastest, strongest. You're not saying that. But what you're going to try to do is move the line of scrimmage and control the line of scrimmage in the Big Ten Conference, this is grown man territory. Who do you trust to make blocks? Who do you trust to run the right route? Who do you trust to show up game in and game out? And I say that specifically, that everybody has some feeling about Thomas Fidone and Arik Gilbert. Everybody has some, in their mind, some image of their talent in this space. The reality is we haven't seen Thomas Fidone in this situation, circumstance, and environment. We haven't seen Arik Gilbert because we saw him with Georgia, but we haven't seen him wearing the N running routes for Jeff Sims and Marcus Satterfield and Matt Rhule. We don't know. As a matter of fact, what we would say is if you saw him 2 months ago and then you saw him this week, it looks like he's changed and his body type has already been adjusted and molded. He looks different. He's moving different. He's looking different. The same can be said for Thomas Fidone. But we haven't seen either of them in this situation, in this circumstance. So then it becomes, who do you trust? And we don't have full access of who is showing out in full in drills. And if you're talking about over the course of 40 plays, 40 reps at yesterday and today's practice, that you don't know who's showing out quite yet. But as you look forward, understand it. Trust matters, right? So having seen Borkature in Big Ten play matters. It absolutely matters. His ability to block and reset the edge, his ability to run short routes, option routes, to get him in front and for him to play big in that space, for him to make plays in that space. And you don't expect him to be electric, but you do expect him to be consistent because he has. You do expect him to be foundational because he has. And then you expect him to be intelligent because he has. So he's been in those situations. To me, the competition will spread throughout the course of camp. But pay attention. Trust matters when it comes to the tight end position and choosing who's going to start for you and who's going to back it up. I also want to move to this. The running back position seems to be a position of abundance. Different players, different skill sets. What will happen over the course of camp will be this. You'll start to identify the personality of the offensive line via who's chosen as running back one. You will find out, is this downhill? Is this flex? Or is this spread? And whatever Marcus Satterfield chooses his offense to be personality-wise, one, it'll be based on the ability to execute. And then the personnel in the field will come down to that. We'll talk about the running back group as we close out Locked On Huskers. Hey, gang, thank you once again for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day as we head through camp. It's just goosebumps thinking about that this is a month. This is a month where there will be a live, actual Husker football game and a Big Ten Conference football game in Minneapolis at month's end, and the drive and the move towards that. We're gonna take it together and go through it. We're talking about the running back room, and in a room that includes 3 running backs who gave you substantial work and effort a year ago, who have been in the program, who've done the work, and within that, trust, again, matters. Trust matters. Here's why I say that. A year ago, with A.J. Allen, Jacquez Yant, Anthony Grant, Ramir Johnson, and Gabe Ervin, you had 5 quality running backs who competed. At the end of last year's camp, and this is why I say camps are fluid, and this is players develop and grow, some shrink, but they all compete. That in last year's competition, it was Gabe Ervin who won the job. Gabe Ervin was the guy. He was the starter. He was the first dude that you would think, okay, this is the guy. But then injuries, and that's what happens, right? So injuries happen, and you had different players who came through and stepped up and who put up a resume. Well, listen, Anthony Grant took the ball and he ran well with it. He gave you 1,000 yards, and there are some games where Anthony Grant was the best player on the field. I don't think that's a misstatement. I don't think I'm misspeaking when I say that. There were games last year when Anthony Grant was the most important player on the field. So I would think that he walks into camp as the lead runner. But remember, there's a new offensive coordinator and a new quarterback and new offensive linemen and new receivers, new tight ends will be blocking for him. All of that's different. Then the question is, does the skill set that Anthony Grant provide, does it match what Marcus Satterfield wants to do? And then are they showing in camp that they have the ability to run what Satterfield likes to run with Anthony Grant as the lead running back? Look, he's slashy, and that's a coaching term. He's slashy, like his ability to cut through and cut back. Look, it's impressive. Gabe Urban is the downhill power runner who, quite simply, in Nebraska lore, allows them the ability to just power through and let their offensive linemen eat. Ramir Johnson is the Swiss Army knife who does well. He can run well between tackle. He can slash for you. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. As a matter of fact, you can line him up at various points. You can send him in motion and change the way the defenses scheme against Jeff Sims and this offense, which is important. Satterfield likes to do that. He likes to send a running back in motion because it changes, one, it helps you identify what the defense is in. Two, it changes their defensive responsibilities. And then third, it allows them to have a mobile target that you don't know. Is he going to end up in the slot? Is he going to end up tight to the tight end? Is he going to end up in the slot? Is he going to get outside the numbers and create some drama? All three of them are Big Ten running back talents. All three of them will compete in battle, and at the end of camp, we will find out that one will lead us through, but probably all three will have an impact on how this Huskers football season goes and how this offense works. The competitions and the battles exist. We will go through them. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. There'll be more tomorrow. I'll see you here. Thank you for joining me. And we'll close with the three words that we love so much. Go Big Red.